Okay, Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, and we have finished until verse 14. So in this chapter called Akshara Brahma Yoga, we are reading about several questions that Arjuna asked, and Krishna is answering them about what is Brahma, what is Adhyatma, what is Adibhuta, Adidaiva, and then how can one think of him at the time of death. So the last question, that how one can think of Lord Sri Krishna at the time of death, or at the time when one is leaving the body, he's answering in elaborate in the whole chapter after answering all the other questions in the beginning. And in that, then we are reading about destinations of the different people in different ways, of the yogis or karmis, and then what happens to them. So in the last week we read actually two verses, 13th and 14th, in which Krishna says that after being situated in the yoga practice, so he says that he will explain about, in the 11th verse he says that how one who is engaged in yoga practice can attain salvation. He will briefly explain in the next couple of verses, and then he says the yogic situation is of detachment. The yoga purpose of yoga, as we learn in 4th chapter, is yoga indriya sanyama, that the purpose of yoga process is to control the senses, shama and dama, controlling mind and senses, and then closing all the doors of senses, fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head in the Sahasrara Chakra. He establishes in yoga. And then last week we read, after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, Om Ikteka Aksharam Brahma, Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran. And that, so Anusmaran is the important thing, that the supreme combination of letters is called Om. And then if one thinks of the supreme personality of Godhead, Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran, whoever is thinking of me at that time, and then he quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. And then one very important verse we read last week is Ananya Cheta Satam Yomam Smarati Nityasha Tasyaha Sulabha Partha Nityayuktasya Yogina. That one who is always thinking of me, Ananya, means nothing else but always thinking of me, even at the time of doing his duty. And when Satatam, Yomam Smarati Nityasha. So we say that, we read that this word Satatam, Nityasha and Nitya. So this is repeated 3 times here in different ways. So the devotion of the Lord is not that, oh, I do worship Lord Krishna, or only on certain weekdays, or only once in a year on Janmashtami day, or only once in a fortnight on Ekadashi day. No, he says clear here, Nityashaha. And what happens to him? Tasyaham sulabha partha. For him, I am very easy to obtain. Very easy. So for one who always remembers me, Yomam Smarati Nityashaha, without deviation, Ananyacheta, I am easy to obtain, O son of Prutha, O Partha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. So further, we will read today then what happens to him. So, or what happens to the person who gets his destination, or the Lord, attains the Lord Krishna's kingdom or spiritual planets. So let's recite this verse. Mamyupetya punarjanma
Mamupetya punarjanma
dukkhalayam ashashvatam
dukkhalayam ashashvatam
Shashvatam
napnuvanti mahatmanah
napnuvanti mahatmana
samsiddhim paramam gataah
samsiddhim paramam gata
mamyupetya punarjanma
Mamupetya punarjanma
Dukkhalayam ashashvatam.
दुःखालयम्
दुःखालयम्
अशाश्वतम्
अशाश्वतम्
नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः
नाप्नुवन्ति
नाप्नुवन्ति
महात्मानः
महात्मानः
संसिद्धिं परमां गताः.
संसिद्धिं
संसिद्धिं
परमां
परमां
गताः
गताः.
Okay, we can take recitations from each of you. Let's start with Chandrakant Prabhu.
मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म
मामुपेत्य
मामुपेत्य
पुनर्जन्म
पुनर्जन्म
दुःखालयम् अशाश्वतम्
दुःखालयम्
दुःखालयम्
अशाश्वतम्
अशाश्वतम्
नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः
नाप्नुवन्ति
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 महात्मानः
महात्मानः
संसिद्धिं परमां गताः
संसिद्धिं
संसिद्धिं
परमां
परमां
गताः.
परमां
गताः
गतः.
मधु प्रभु.
हाँ प्रभु. मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म
मामुपेत्य
मामुपेत्य
पुनर्जन्म
पुनर्जन्म
दुःखालयम् अशाश्वतम्
दुःखालयम्
दुःखालयम्
अशाश्वतम्
अशाश्वतम्
नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः
नाप्नुवन्ति
नाप्नुवन्ति
महात्मानः
महात्मानाम्
संसिद्धि परमां गतः.
संसिद्धिं
संसिद्धिं
परमां गताः.
परमां गताः.
राजेश प्रभु.
मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म
मामुपेत्य
मामुपेत्य
पुनर्जन्म
पुनर्जन्म
दुःखालयम् अशाश्वतम्
दुःखालयम्
दुःखालयम्
अशाश्वतम्
अशाश्वतम्
नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः
नाप्नुवन्ति
नाप्नुवन्ति
महात्मानः
महात्मानः
संसिद्धिं परमां गताः.
संसिद्धिं
संसिद्धिं
परमां
परमां
गताः
गतः.
Okay, let's do word for word translation. So Mam means me. So that is Lord Krishna is referring to himself. So Lord Krishna. Upetya means achieving, one who achieves me or attains me. Punaha means again. Janma means birth. Dukkha alayam means place of miseries. Ashashvatam means temporary. Na means never. Apnuvanti means attain. Maha Atmanah means the great souls. Samsiddhim means perfection. Paramam means ultimate. Gata means having achieved. So very important verse here. So after attaining me, the great soul or Mahatmas who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Very, very important. So after attaining me, so what happens after attaining Lord Krishna? If somebody is successful in his process of bhakti or yoga, and he attains to the spiritual planet of Krishna or any of the Vaikuntha planets where different Vishnus or different incarnations of Krishna live. So what happens to him? He Punarjanma he doesn't get. He doesn't have to take birth again in this world, which is referred here as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. The world which is temporary and which is full of miseries. This world is referred as, material world is referred as something that is temporary, and we can see that at every step, that everything here is diminishing with the time. So time is the factor that is deteriorating everything in this world. Everything that comes into existence here is eventually going to get vanished. So everything here is temporary. The duration may be some cases short or in some cases long, but everybody who is born has a death, and everything here in this material will eventually vanish. So that's why this world is called temporary. And this world is also called as Dukkhalayam. So the word Dukkhalayam, so actually let's read the purport first and then we will discuss a little bit more. So Chandrakant Prabhu, you want to read the purport?
Since this temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally, he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavana, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as Avyakta and Akshar and Pramadgati, Paramagati. In other words, the planet is beyond our material vision and it is inexplicable. But it is the highest goal, the destination for Mahatmas, great souls. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are supreme souls.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So this world, as I was mentioning, is referred as temporary. The material creation is temporary. So here in this material creation, in the whole universe or all the universes, everyone has to go through something that is called Shadavikar. Shadavikar or 6 vikaras means 6 transitions of the steps of the whole lifespan. So everything that has to take birth or come into existence, then it grows, then it creates some byproducts, then it stays for some time, and then it dwindles, it starts decaying, and sixth one is it vanishes. So every living entity also, he has to take birth, then he grows, he gives birth to some offsprings or children, then he stays for some time, then he goes through the old aging process, so he starts decaying, and then eventually he has to die. So everybody has to go through these 6 processes of that is called Shadvikar, and that's why this is referred as temporary. And the lifespan may be different for different living entities, but everyone has to go through this, and including, and it says including the Brahma, whose lifespan is very very long as compared to our lifespan or from our calculation, and the smallest insect in this world whose lifespan may be even for a like a just a night, one night. So all 6 things happen for that particular, for the insect in overnight. So he comes into existence, he creates byproducts, he grows, and he by the morning he's died, death. So everything is temporary, and also this world is full of miseries. So Prabhupada refers here the 4 real problems on this material world: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Which are the real problems? Everything else is actually our concocted problems. But the real problems in this material world, which we unfortunately cannot solve, whatever we do, are Janma. We have to take birth. We are forced to take birth. We don't decide where we take birth or how we take birth. The birth is dependent on the karma what we do, and then the desires what we have accumulated. So we get birth according to what we had desired for and what we deserve. And actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto 31st chapter, very first verse, Kapil Dev, when he is explaining this Sankhya philosophy to his mother Devahuti, he explains karmana daiva nitrena jantur deha upapattaye. Shriya Pravishta Udaram Pumsa Reta Kanashriya. That by karma and Daivanetrena, means under the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So nature is working under the supervision of Krishna. He says in the 9th chapter, Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. So this nature, by under the spell of nature and by the balance of karma, one gets birth. And how? He gets put into a womb of a female. Sriya Pravishta Udaram Pumsa Reta Kanashraya. He takes shelter of a semen particle of a male, and then he is injected into a female womb, and that's how he gets birth, like a human being, dog body, cat body, fish body, or whatever body he is. So that's how we get birth in this material world. We don't decide. We are forced to take birth in certain particular condition, particular place, particular family, particular country, and then we live according to the karma what we have done in the past lives. So birth is our one of the problems that is given mentioned about us in this problem. Then old age, nobody wants old age, but everybody is forced to get old. Now there are so many problems we can see about old people. There are some old age house actually here, just across from our couple of blocks from our place here, where both of our children, Jay and Jia, they went for voluntary service for their school. They have to do some volunteer work, few hours in this in the academic year. So they went there, and the people who are living there in the senior houses are, we can see how much trouble they have. They don't remember their children. They come to visit them and they don't even remember them. They don't even recognize that they are our children. Then they cannot get up. They don't know what is going on around us. So, and we can experience now that, you see, I am wearing glasses, I am reading glasses. So eventually the ability of our senses is slowly taken away. People need hearing aids. Our bodies or limbs start functioning properly, and our seeing ability goes away, and so many issues. So those are all part and parcel of our growing, that old age. Nobody wants it, but everybody has to go through that. Diseases, uh, everybody, irrespective where he is born, however healthy family he is born, he has to experience some or other kind of diseases. Actually, our material body itself is called as a disease. This whole material body, because of which we are suffering in here, and the diseases could be at the physical level, which we go through medical practitioner, then it can be at mental level also, and those are the diseases, according to WHO, are increasing more and more. People are going through depression, stressful conditions more and more. So diseases, everybody, nobody wants it, but everybody gets it, and ultimately death. However diseased a person may be, he doesn't want to die. However old he may get, he doesn't want to die. Everybody is afraid of death. So these are the four real problems in this material world. And that's why this world is referred as Dukkhalayam. Krishna says that this world is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. This is place of miseries, and as well as this is temporary. And the other three miseries, what everybody is suffering, those are given by the Durga Devi in this material world, who is the superintendent of this material creation. And those are Adhyatmik, Adibhautik, and Adidaivik. And that's why it is said that she is holding the Trishul, and that by Trishul, she is giving these miseries to all the demons in this material world. So what are Adhyatmik? Adhyatmik is the suffering that I am experiencing because of my own body and mind. So if I get disease, or I have headache, or I break my finger or something, those are the the suffering that is caused by myself and I'm experiencing because of that is called Adhyatmik. Then Adi Bhautik is the suffering caused by the other living entities to that living entity. So it could be, there are so many so-called enemies we may have, and because of that we are always in anxiety. Or there are other living entities, like even, for example, even a mosquito bite is giving us suffering. So that mosquito, who is other living entity, is causing us some suffering. So any suffering that is caused by other living entity is referred as Adi Bhautik. And the third one, Adi Daivik, is the natural calamities. So not by ourselves or not by other living entities, but some sufferings we experience because of the nature's law, or what we call as God's act. So like earthquake, tsunami, forest fires, which nobody sets fire, but it just starts, or famine, or opposite to famine would be flooding everywhere, or torrents of rain, or no rain. So all these things may cause suffering to all the living entities in that area. So that kind of sufferings are called Adidaivik. So all these four problems and three types of suffering, because of this, we are always suffering here. But unfortunately, we are searching for happiness in this material world. So we are searching for something in a very wrong place. So we all know the different places, right? Like Granthalaya is a place where we get books, or Vachanalaya is a place where we go for reading books, or what are Vidyalaya is a place where we go for learning. So like this, the Alaya is a place where we go for certain things and we get it there. Like Bhojanalaya is a place where we can get bhojan, or it's basically a restaurant where we can get food. But if we are looking for sukh or happiness in a place that Krishna calls at Dukhalayam, is that something a smart person will do? No, right? Because in Dukhalayam, however strongly you are searching for sukh, we will never get sukh. We will always get what is served there in that place, and that is what is dukh. So the temporary happiness, what we call happiness in this material world, is actually a temporary relief from all the kinds of sufferings and problems we have. So if somebody is diseased and he gets cured from that, he considers himself as happy because he got relief from the certain suffering. Or somebody who is in certain situation where he is suffering because of certain, let's say, certain type of loan, and he was relieved from that loan, then that relief he calls as happiness. But that is not real happiness. The real happiness, Krishna says in the 6th chapter actually, Sukham Atyantikam Yatyat Buddhigrayam Atindriyam. The real happiness is we don't even have experience of what is called happiness. The real happiness, Sukham Atyantikam Yatyat Buddhyagrahyam Atindriyam. We don't have enough intelligence, buddhi, to understand. We cannot understand what is sukha. And it is atindriyam, which cannot be experienced by our material senses. But unfortunately, the happiness we are seeking is we are thinking that by gratifying my senses, I will get happiness. Which sometimes we feel happiness because it gives us temporary pleasure. But that is not, Krishna says, is real happiness. Sukham atyantikam yatyat buddhigrayam atindrayam. So the real happiness is when we are situated in our real original position. First thing for that is we need to understand who we really are. We are not this material body, but we are a spiritual being, and our eternal position or eternal situation, because we are a spiritual spark, and Krishna is the source of that spark. He is eternally our master. We are eternally his servant, and if we serve him with the all the abilities what we have been given, then that is the our real position, and that's what gives us real happiness. And one has to experience this, as he says in the 9th chapter, that the knowledge what I am giving is the king of all knowledge, Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam, and it is king of all the secrets. Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam, and Pavitram Idamuttamam. This is the purest, and this is Uttama, best. Pratyaksha avagam dharmyam susukham kartumavyam. And this one can experience pratyaksha by himself when he starts engaging in this service of deity worship or in his bhakti in one of any of the nine processes of bhakti, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So when he engages in that bhakti, the happiness he derives from within, that is pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam and susukham kartumavyam, and that can be performed in a very happily. Susukham. So that is the definition of happiness. But we are seeking happiness in this place which is Krishna refers as dukkhalaya. And that's what our disease is. That's what our problem is. But person who gets mam upetya, who goes to Krishna, he attains the highest perfection of planet in the Krishna Lok called Goloka Vrindavan. So in the Vaikuntha planets, there are many Vaikuntha planets, and the topmost Vaikuntha planet is called Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna is eternally performing his Leela just like he performed in Vrindavan. He's eternally associating with gopis. So because we are now suffering here, and once we get there and we understand our real position, who will want to come here back again if we have experienced this? The same Prabhupada gives sometimes an example that if a little child, he is very fascinated with the fan, the table fan, what we have seen table fans in India, right, which is rotating. So he is very fascinated with the blades which are rotating at very fast speed, and he wants to put his finger there, a little child. And Prabhupada, I think he experimented with, or he let his son do this because he wanted to put his finger. So he wants to put a finger. What will happen? He puts finger there. He'll be hurt. The finger might get cut, and it will hurt him. But the father or mother, they turn off the fan, let the speed of the fan slow down enough so that it won't hurt much, and ask the child to put his finger now in there. And now when he puts his finger in the fan, he hurts, but he doesn't basically would harm him much more than hurting a little bit. Now, when the fan is turning, even if somebody will ask him to put his finger in the fan, will he put it back again? No, right? Because he has experienced this, and he knows that it is painful. So in the same manner, once an intelligent person who understands that this place is a place of miseries, and he has experienced the miseries here, and even after making several efforts to mitigate those miseries, he experiences those again and again. Then once he engages in Krishna's service and goes back to home, back to Godhead in spiritual planet, why would he want to come back again? So that's why he doesn't return again. The supreme planet in the Vedic literature is defined, is termed in different ways. It's called Avyakta because it is eternal. That's why it is called Avyakta. So it doesn't have to manifest and unmanifest again and again, just like these material universes. They come into existence for a certain period, they again become unmanifest, and they come into existence again. So this cycle is going on and on, even continuously. Bhutva, bhutva pariyate. We'll read that in the next chapter. But that's why it is called Avyakta. It is also called Akshara because it never deteriorates. And then it is also called Paramagati. So that is the final destination. When one gets there, it never comes back again. And it is because it is beyond our material vision, and it is inexplicable. And that is the real highest goal of everybody's life. That is the goal of human form of life. And that's why the people who understands this and they engage in service of Krishna, they are called Mahatma. So that is the real definition of Mahatma. Mahatma is not some political designation just given by some vote or some popular mentality to somebody. So Mahatma, actually, there are few verses in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna refers to brings this term as Mahatma. Who is Mahatma? And one we already read in the 7th chapter, that Krishna says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa Mahatma sudurlabha. 7th chapter, 9th verse, 19th verse. So he says that Bahunam, after many, many births, Bahunam janmanam ante, when Jnanavan mam prapadyate, when an intelligent person who realizes that this place is a place of misery, and even after many attempts of whatever I am trying to find happiness here, I am being unsuccessful. I am not going to get any happiness here. And that's why I have to surrender to somebody who is the Sarve Sarva, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. That Krishna or Vasudeva, he is the cause of all causes, he is everything, and my duty is to surrender unto him. When one realizes that person, that great soul, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, that great soul is very, very rare in this material world to get that intelligence. And that is the one definition we read in 7th chapter, Mahatma. And then 9th chapter also there is a verse, Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti ashrita bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam. That Mahatmas are Mahatmanastu mam partha, they take shelter of Krishna's spiritual energy, not the material. They don't take shelter of Maya, but they take shelter of Krishna's spiritual energy. Daivi prakriti ashrita. And what do? Bhajanti ananya manaso. They do bhajan of me. How? Ananya manaso, without any deviation. That's same word what we read in the previous verse also. Ananya cheta satatam. Ananya. So ananya means without deviation of mind, without thinking. Bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam. And they understand that all the living entities, and he is the supreme, and they are all avyayam. They are actually avyayam. They don't have to take birth and death. They don't have to. But we think that we are getting birth and death because of our certain karmic reactions and our desire to enjoy. And that's why we are given this body. And getting this body and living this body is something what we term as birth and death. But we are actually eternal, just like Krishna is. Our original position, that's what we read in the 2nd chapter itself. Krishna gives this Nayam Deho, what is it? Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That the spirit soul is never die. It never dies even after the sharir is, we call as death. So even when giving up the sharir, it is not destroyed. The soul is never destroyed. So we are actually eternal, and our eternal position is to serve him. And eventually, so that is the goal of our lives, that we want to eventually transfer to the spiritual planet, and then they want only Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection. Sam siddhim paramam gata. Sam siddhi means the highest siddhi or success or highest destination. And parama, supreme, gata. Once they have gone there, they don't come back to dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So this verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees, the personalist who understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and he is the source of all the spiritual energy as well as everything around us that is avyakta. Because there are devotees or there are yogis who also think that this avyakta energy or they think that God has no form, or God is this general light or some kind of energy or anything. They don't understand or they don't accept Krishna as Supreme Lord. But in several places in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna referred that he is the Supreme Lord and he is the source of that energy. He is the source of that something what we in general called as Brahman. So he is the source of Brahman and he is also the source of Paramatma. So, and that's why his devotees, the one who worship some or other kind of his form, it could be Vitthal, Ram, Narsimha, Vishnu, Vaman, or any other form, they are his personalist devotees. They worship him in a specific personal form, not avyakta form. And these devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life, or in other words, they are the supreme souls or they are the Mahatmas. So I will stop here. So a lot of things that we can talk about this. This is another very beautiful verse that Prabhupada quotes many times, and it's easier to understand actually. Mamupetya punardharma janma, and this is something that material world is referred to by Krishna himself, the supreme authority. So very nice points here. So yes, Prabhuji, any thoughts on this?
Prabhuji, no thought. The way you explained really beautifully, because this Dukkhalaya Shashvatam and Mahatma, these two are main things, or the I will say the crux of this entire shloka. And the way you explain it, because we used to refer Dukkhalaya Shashvatam previously also, right? Many times when we talk about the human birth and the life cycle, Janma, Vyadhi, Jara, Mrityu. Right, त्यावेळी हे दुःखालय शाश्वतम तुम्ही एक्सप्लेन केलं होतं, पण the way in this context and the Mahatman, these two things you explained really nice.
Yeah, it's all explained by Prabhupada. So thank you
Yes.
very much for
For us, you are there, the pathway. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Rajesh Prabhu, any other thoughts?
Yeah. You explained well actually. Thing is, they जे गोलोका जे म्हणलेलं आहे किंवा स्वर्गलोका, ती कन्सेप्टच आपल्या मला वाटतं आपल्या बुद्धीच्या बाहेर आहे ऍक्च्युली. इट विल बी what will be that place actually, how beautiful that place ki everybody want to go there ultimately, and it is a spiritual world that word itself describes ki it will be not like a materialistic world. It will be something different, I was just thinking how it will be, and in the context of whole universe, there are, I can say, billions of planets are there, and
Mhm.
billions of stars are there somewhere. So in this whole universe, somewhere this will be there. This Goloka and this, the where we don't know actually, and how to reach that point, to that place, is only, I feel, through the practice. What is said is through spiritual way only, and material body cannot go there anywhere. It is
Mhm.
correct. Okay. So
Mhm.
whatever material thing is there, it will be left to that, uh, to earth, planet specific, it will be remain there,
Mhm.
and only the soul will be traveling to that place.
Mhm.
Soul is our energy actually, and it is, again, I mean, to just to experience, it is a very last stage going, reaching that point actually. But having a association with the Lord, and just uh, even if we get situated in that transcendental bliss through yogic practices or bhakti,
Mhm.
a lot of things will get achieved here on the earth. It's what I feel so. Correct. Means it's just a taste, or just a hint, or the thing you will experience, that bliss you will experience through the chanting of Lord Krishna and the yogic practices, what is said.
Mhm.
Correct. It will require a far higher perfection, or maybe multiple births of practice rather, to reach
Mhm.
to those planets. It will be also true actually. Correct.
Yes, bro. So few points
Huh.
when I was listening to you. One thing you
Hmm.
mentioned, that Krishna Loka is somewhere in this universe. That is not what is mentioned in our scriptures. So this whole universe is material universe.
Okay.
And there
Okay.
are
Okay.
billions of universes like this.
Like this.
Like
Okay.
this. Okay. And
Okay.
then this whole creation, and
Hmm.
that billions of universe is
Hmm.
a insignificant part of the whole creation.
Hmm.
And beyond that, so that is the material creation, all these material universes. And
Ah.
beyond that is spiritual part. There is a spiritual uh, realm. It is called beyond, something called Vaitarani. Vaitarani river. You may have heard that river.
Vaitarna.
Vaitarani.
Vaitarna.
Vaitarani.
Vaitarni.
Vaitarani river, or something called causal ocean, that is beyond that. And
Hmm.
then the spiritual world is much bigger than this material world, which constitutes of billions of universes like this.
So that is still bigger than this material
Yes.
you are telling.
And then the
Ah.
spiritual, in the spiritual realm, there are millions and billions of spiritual planets, and the inhabitants there are spiritual beings. They are eternally serving different, and those planets are called Vaikuntha planets. So there is not one Vaikuntha planet, there are billions of Vaikuntha planets. And the direct meaning of Vaikuntha is Vigata Kuntha iti Vaikuntha, means some place where there is no kuntha. Kuntha means anxiety or distress or dukkha, basically kuntha. And vai means without. So without kuntha, without any, those places are without any distress or without any miseries, material miseries. So those are called Vaikuntha planets. And the topmost planet in those Vaikuntha planets is Krishna Lok or Golok Vrindavan. So that is beyond our even imagination, because we cannot even comprehend this whole universe itself.
True. Correct.
So that is one thing I just wanted to mention, because you mentioned that in this universe somewhere is Goloka Vrindavan. So that is not completely true. And then other part, I forgot what you said.
No, other part is, see, only after it will take a lot of successive lives, births, and devotion to attain to that level.
Correct. So it depends. So the criteria for going back to Krishna is not actually the timeline. Time is not the factor. It's the intensity of desire to go back is the factor. The more the intensity, the sooner we can get there. And Prabhupada, in one of his, somebody asked question, Prabhupada, it will take for many lifetimes for us. How long it may take us to go back to Krishna? One of his European disciples asked him in the assembly of everybody. And Prabhupada said, 1 minute. If you really want to go back to him, you can go back to him within 1 minute. Because it is not necessarily physically going there. You can eternally associate with him, and then eventually when you give up this body, because you are always living with him, you will go back to him immediately. And there are so many examples, and actually to understand that philosophy, we need to understand the science of spirituality.
That is many things. True.
So that is very important. And but actually, there are 5 kinds of liberations that are mentioned in the scriptures. So 5 liberations mentioned are called Sayujya Mukti, then Sarupya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, then Sarshti Mukti, and Sayujya, Salokya, Sarupya, Sarshti, and one more. I'm missing one. So Sayujya is when one is merging in his effulgence, in Brahman. So Sayujya Mukti, when he is merged. Sarupya means one who after liberation gets the same form, 4-handed Vishnu form, just like Vishnu's. Sarupya. Salokya means one gets to associate with him in his loka. Then Sarshti means one gets similar opulence like him. Same Aishwarya, same everything. And then there is one more, Samipya, one who continuously associates with Krishna, or say if he is devotee of Rama, he gets association with Rama, or he gets association with Narasimha or Vishnu or different deities. So that these 5 types of muktis. But a real devotee who is very dear to Krishna, and we'll read that about him. If you have read ever the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga, very beautiful chapter. It's very short, 20 shlokas only, but in which Krishna gives explanation, mentions in the last 7 verses about what type of devotees are dear to him. And the devotees who have those qualities are always, even when they are living anywhere, they are very dear to Krishna. And actually, in one of the verses, when the Durvasa Muni goes to Lord Vishnu, and Vishnu says that, oh, Sadhavo Rudayam, that I live in the heart of the devotees, and devotees are always in my heart. The pure devotees, they always live in my heart because I always remember them, and they always remember me. So we are never separated. And one more verse I could think of is when I think we talked about this few times, that Lord Shiva, when he mentions about the devotees of the Lord Vishnu, when he is referring to them, to Mother Sati, he says that Narayana Parasarve na kutaschana bibbhati swarga apavarga narkeshu apitulyarth darshina. Narayana Para, who are the very topmost devotees or eternal devotees of Narayan Para, Sarve, all, na kutaschana bibbati. They are never distressed in any situation. They are never disturbed. Whatever may happen to them, they are never elated or they are never disturbed. Even in so-called material happiness or distress, whatever they don't get too excited or they don't get too distressed. Na kutaschana bibbati. Swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulyartha darshanam. And wherever they are put, if they are given life to live in Swarga, or they are given liberation, apavarga is a word that is used for liberation, and then narakeshu, even they are put in hellish planets, api tulyartha darshan, for them everything is same, because all they are doing every time is always remembering him, singing about him, and telling everyone about him. About whom? Narayana or Krishna. And apavarga is word, maybe I'll briefly, in very short, we'll go over it. So, pavarga, we know the Sanskrit alphabets, right? So, Sanskrit alphabets are divided broadly into Vargiya and Avargiya. So, there are Vargiya means there are 25 alphabets, 25 Vanjanas, they are called Vargiya. So, they are Ka Varga, Cha Varga, Ta Varga, Ta Varga, and Pa Varga. Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Na, Cha, Cha, Ja, Jana, Ta, Tha, Da, Dana, Ta, Tha, Da, Dana, and Pa, Fa, Ba, Ba, Ma. And Avargiya are Ya, Ra, La, Va, Sha, Sha, Sa, Ha, La. So these are all Avargiya. So this Vargiya, in all Vargiya, the last row is Pa Varga. So what are the letters in Pa Varga? Pa, Fa, Ba, Bha, Ma. So these all Pa Varga represent actually the material world. That is Dukkhalayam, Ashashvatam we are referring to. Because Pa for Parishram, everybody here in this material world, for anything has to go through a lot of hard work. Everybody is doing Parishram. How much Parishram? Until almost fena or foam comes out of his mouth. Just like आपण घाण्याला जुंपलेला बैल बघितलाय ना, त्या बैलाच्या तोंडाला फेस येतो तरी पण तो काम करत असतो. तसं everybody of us are working so hard for nothing, because we are going to eat 2 chapatis at the end of the day, every day. But still we are working very hard. So parishram, अगदी तोंडाला फेस येईपर्यंत, फेस येईपर्यंत परिश्रम करतो, and out of that still what we get is bandhan. B for bandhan, P for B. We are creating more and more karma bandhan and entangling ourselves in this material world. And even after doing all this and creating bandhan, we are always living in bhaya. We are always fearful. That's why we have so many insurances, auto insurance, medical insurance, this kind of insurance. We have so many cameras around our houses for security. We have so many armed forces to protect ourselves. Because why? We are always afraid. And all animals are afraid actually. Even a bird, when the bird comes and is looking for even little food, he's always looking here and there. Oh, is somebody coming to grab me? And then he gets the seed or grain and then he flies away. Everybody is fearful here. And even after spending life under this, doing parishram, up to getting fena, creating karma bandhan, and living in fear, bhaya, ultimately is everybody has to attain mrityu, ma for mrityu. So that's why this world is called pavarga. And getting liberation from this is called apavarga. So opposite to this pavarga. So the liberated life is called apavarga. And that's why he says that swarga apavarga narkeshu apitulyartha darshan. So for a real devotee of Lord, everything is same. So he actually is not interested in any of the so-called five liberations. And particularly Sayujya, he is never interested. Others he may accept, but Sayujya is actually losing one's own identity and merging into one of the rays of the Brahma Jyoti, which is not devotee rejects that type of liberation. That is something is desired by jnanis who are at the Brahman level platform or Brahman level of realization of the absolute truth or Param Satya. So just wanted to mention that because you mentioned what is the timeline for there could be many births. So I thought maybe this will help clarify that little.
Very nice, perfect explanation. Actually. Very good. These are the things actually keep in mind, and until somebody explains, we will not come to know and will not understand actually. A lot of things are in the background. I mean, back-end references are there. Correct. So, from a knowledgeable person, we have to hear. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. No, that was very good points, and thank you for bringing those up. So, and this we need to hear repeatedly because just hearing once sometimes doesn't help.
True. Correct.
Okay. So I think we'll stop here, Prabhuji. Madhusudan Prabhu, any points? Any thoughts?
No, Prabhuji. Nothing different.
Okay. So thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. We'll see you next.
Hare Krishna.